A car should not climb a hill with the engine off. But near Leh in Ladakh, drivers stop on a mountain road, switch off the ignition, and watch the vehicle appear to move uphill. In the redwoods outside Santa Cruz, a spot only about 150 feet wide makes people, balls, and buildings seem to disagree with gravity. And on a quiet Australian road, water and balls appear to move the wrong way, while the surrounding landscape insists the eyes are right. We are taught that gravity is the one force on Earth you never have to question. Down is down. Heavy objects fall. Cars need power to climb. But then a handful of places make the word down feel unreliable. What happens when the landscape lies better than a measuring instrument? Can the body feel down while the eyes see up? Why do the same gravity tricks appear on different continents? And if gravity is so familiar, why do these places still make drivers stop? 5 places where gravity seems to work wrong. The first is Magnetic Hill, about 30 kilometers from Leh on the Leh-Kargil highway. It is not a hidden location. There is a sign. There is a marked stretch of asphalt. And there is a driver who pulls over, shifts into neutral, and releases the brake. The engine is off. The road looks like it rises ahead, and the car begins to roll, not backward, not downhill. It appears to move toward the higher ground. The experience is fast and physical, a vehicle weighing more than a ton, silent, gliding in a direction that feels impossible. The slope is gentle, maybe no steeper than a ramp in a parking garage, but the direction is wrong. The car should be rolling the other way. The body expects it. The eyes confirm it. And yet the car keeps moving. The common explanation points to a hidden truth. The road is actually sloping downhill. The surrounding mountain horizon removes the normal visual reference for level ground. The brain, without a flat horizon to compare against, reads the landscape incorrectly. What looks like an uphill climb is really a downhill roll. But here's the crack in that explanation. The effect is so convincing that the driver feels the car is being pulled by the landscape itself. The road turns eyesight into the unreliable instrument. The motion is felt before the mind can override it. The body says the car is climbing, even when the measuring tape says otherwise. The trap is not the car. The trap is the horizon. Magnetic Hill is not a legend. It has a road, a sign, a distance, and a test that anyone can perform. It proves the format immediately. A real place, a real vehicle, real confusion. One stop, one shift into neutral, and gravity stops feeling like a fixed, simple force. Which of these places would you test first? Write your city or country in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for more stories that go deeper than the textbook version. A road can trick a car. The next place tricks the entire body. The redwoods outside Santa Cruz hold a small patch of forest that seems to forget which way is up. The space is only about 150 feet across, 46 meters, smaller than many parking lots. It was discovered in 1939 and opened to the public the following year. And from the moment visitors step inside, the normal world tilts. If a car can be tricked by the horizon, what happens when the trap surrounds your own body? At the mystery spot, the answer arrives fast. The wooden structure built on the slope looks ordinary from a distance, but the floor is not level, the walls are not square, and the brain, relying on walls and corners to judge vertical, starts making a quiet kind of error. People stand at angles that appear impossible, they lean forward without falling. 2 visitors can switch places and seem to change height, one suddenly taller, the other shorter, while observers stare at a space that refuses to behave. A ball placed on a level surface appears to roll uphill. Water does not settle flat, it tilts. The demonstrations are simple, almost carnival-like, but the effect is not a trick, it is a takeover. The eyes, fed a distorted visual frame, begin to overrule the inner ear, the muscles, the years of learning what down means. The body still feels gravity pulling toward the center of the earth, but the eyes insist that vertical has moved. And in that conflict, the sense of reality cracks. The mystery spot does not need to hide the slope. It uses the same weakness that made a car climb a mountain road near Leh. The difference is the scale. A road asks you to trust the engine, the wheels, the view through a windshield. Here, the room asks you to trust your own spine. A space no wider than a city block becomes a full-body gravity theater, where height, weight, and balance all feel negotiable. The official explanation points to tilted construction and a missing horizon, but the experience is stronger than the explanation. Your inner ear says one thing, your muscles another, and your eyes deliver a third. The brain, without a stable reference, chooses the one that looks most consistent, and gets it wrong. At Santa Cruz, gravity does not need to vanish. It only needs the room to convince the brain that vertical has shifted. The phenomenon moves from the asphalt into the nervous system, from a stopped car into the body itself. And that makes the mystery harder to dismiss, because you cannot step out of your own perception. You are the instrument, and the instrument is being fooled. If the eyes can overpower balance inside a wooden shack, what happens when the same trap is set by a mountain? If the eyes can overpower balance in a room, what happens when a mountain becomes the room? Researchers studying gravity hills in the Santa Cruz mystery spot found a weak point in human perception. When the horizon and the surrounding visual frame are distorted, the eyes can hijack the body's normal sense of vertical. The inner ear says you are standing straight, but the tilted world around you insists otherwise, and the eyes win. Now take that weakness and move it to the slopes of Mount Aragats in Armenia. If a tilted wooden structure can fool the body, a tilted landscape can fool an entire road. The mountain becomes the room. Mount Aragats rises more than 4,000 meters, the highest massif in Armenia. But the road that carries the illusion sits much lower, on a stretch of asphalt winding toward the mountain's flank. A driver stops on the shoulder, shifts into neutral, and releases the brake. The car begins to crawl forward. The road in front looks like a climb. The engine is off, yet the vehicle appears to accelerate uphill. The steering wheel is still, the pedals untouched, but the mountain seems to be pulling. Pour a bottle of water onto the asphalt. The liquid does what liquid always does. It runs downhill. Except here. Downhill seems to be the direction the road claims is up. The water flows toward the slope, spreading across the dark surface, as if the mountain has its own definition of level. A bottle of water is harder to dismiss than a story. When liquid moves the wrong way on camera, the mountain becomes a witness. This is no wooden shack with tilted walls. It is open air, real asphalt. A mountain so large it makes your eyes feel small. There are no ticket booths, no controlled angles, just the land itself and the same perceptual trap that worked inside a California forest. The horizon is missing, swallowed by slopes and ridges, and the brain fills the gap with a false vertical. The mountain does not need a machine. It uses the shape of the land. The same hidden slope and blocked horizon that fooled visitors at the mystery spot now stretch across a road in the Caucasus. That is the uncomfortable part. The illusion is not fragile. It travels. A person standing on that road does not feel like a scientist. They feel like someone who just watched water disobey a lifetime of trusting the word down. The car, the water, the eyes, the mountain, all agree on a direction that should not exist. And suddenly, the simple word gravity feels less like a law and more like a negotiation between the planet and the landscape. The tilted room effect now spreads into a mountain landscape, and the pattern begins to form. The driver at Aragats does not need a sign. The road itself is the instruction. Stop the car. Shift into neutral. Watch what happens. And what happens is the same thing that happened 30 kilometers from Leh, on a marked highway near the mountains of Ladakh. The vehicle begins to roll. It does not roll the way the eyes expect. It rolls toward what looks like the higher ground. Water poured onto the Armenian asphalt does something even stranger. It does not spread downhill. It crawls toward the slope. A bottle tipped on the road becomes a witness. The liquid chooses the direction the landscape says is wrong, and the landscape is not a wooden room with tilted walls. It is the open flank of the highest massif in Armenia, a mountain that rises more than 4,000 meters into the sky. The mystery spot in Santa Cruz taught us that vertical can break inside a circle only 150 feet wide. A tilted floor, a distorted horizon, and the brain surrenders. Height changes. Balls roll against the visible slope. The body leans at angles that look impossible but feel stable. At Aragats, the same confusion escapes the room and spreads across kilometers of mountain road. No ceiling, no walls, just asphalt, air, and a horizon that has learned to lie. One strange hill can be a curiosity. A road near Leh that makes a car climb with the engine off is a good story. But three places, on different continents, with different roads, different buildings, different skies, begin to point at something deeper. The mechanism is simple: a hidden downhill slope and a missing visual reference. The landscape erases the true horizon and replaces it with a false one. But the repetition is the pressure. India, California, Armenia, car, body, water. The same failure of the human sense of vertical, dressed in different landscapes, each one convincing enough to make a person doubt the word down. This is not a random list. Each place adds a different kind of pressure. Magnetic Hill gave the cleanest image: a silent vehicle moving where it should not. The mystery spot moved the problem from the road into the nervous system, showing that the body itself can be hijacked by a tilted frame. Aragats adds water, the simplest witness, and a scale that feels wild and uncontrollable. Together they form a pattern. The planet pulls with the same force everywhere, but the ground teaches the eyes how to read the pull. And the ground can teach a lie. The human body feels certainty before it proves anything. A driver in Ladakh feels the car roll and immediately trusts the direction. A visitor in Santa Cruz feels their balance shift and accepts the new vertical as real. A traveler on Aragats watches water climb and believes the mountain has reversed gravity. The simple explanation, hidden slope, lost horizon, works on paper. It does not erase the physical shock of watching it happen. That shock is the weakness these places expose. The mind knows the truth, but the body experiences the lie. Now the pattern is set. The midpoint is clear. The video is not a catalog of strange roads. It is a chain of ways the word down can fail. And the next place in that chain is not a remote mountain pass or a hidden forest clearing. It is an official American landmark. A short stretch of road in Florida with a sign that tells a ghost story. A place listed in the National Register where generations of drivers have stopped, shifted into neutral, and felt the same impossible roll. The ghost on the sign is less strange than the missing horizon. The sign is not shy. It says Spook Hill in capital letters, and right below it, a painted story tells of a ghost that pushes cars uphill. You are standing on North Wales Drive in Lake Wales, Florida, a short piece of road, no longer than a city block, tucked between an elementary school and a cemetery. The asphalt is ordinary, the Florida heat presses down, and the only hint that something is strange is that white line painted across the pavement. After the high mountain roads of Armenia, this stretch feels almost suburban. But the same trick that made a car climb in Ladakh and a body lean in Santa Cruz is now printed on a sign, listed in an official register, and repeated by thousands of drivers who pull up, shift into neutral, and watch their vehicle roll the wrong way. The ritual has not changed in decades. You stop exactly at the painted white line. The city painted it there for a reason. Shift into neutral, foot off the brake. The car begins to creep backward. From the driver's seat, the road ahead rises. The engine is off. The hill appears to pull the vehicle toward a higher point. The tires roll slowly, maybe 10 or 15 meters, before you break out of habit. Not because of a ghost, but because the motion feels so unexpected. The actual slope is gentle, perhaps 2 or 3 degrees downhill, but from inside the car it feels like you are rolling backward up a hill. The U.S. National Park Service classifies Spook Hill as a gravity hill optical illusion. Its exact street address is recorded, and it carries a National Register reference number, 10000035585. That number is a real archive entry, meaning this strange stretch of road is documented in a federal database of historic places. The simple explanation points to a blocked horizon. The trees and the narrow road swallow the skyline, and what looks like a climb is actually a gentle downhill slope. The eyes, with no reliable horizon, invent an incline that does not exist. But unlike the wild mountain road of Aragats, this is a street that people drive every day. It has been a tourist attraction since around 1950, and locals will still tell you exactly where to park. A road so ordinary that the effect has survived decades of visitors, signs, legends, and repeat tests. Generations of drivers have stopped at that white line and felt the same confusing lurch. The sign blames spirits. It tells a local legend of a ghost or a giant creature that haunts the road. But the real ghost is the missing horizon. Spook Hill is not about broken gravity. It is about how fragile our sense of vertical really is. The body feels the roll before the mind accepts the slope. You are moving, the road looks up, and no amount of knowing the explanation stops the sensation. The ghost on the sign is less strange than the missing horizon. By now, the pattern is becoming familiar. A road, a slope the eyes cannot read, and a body that trusts the motion more than the explanation. One hill can be explained. 4 begin to feel like a lesson in how easily the brain can be fooled by a few degrees of hidden incline. An official register puts Spook Hill on the map. It is not a rumor or a blurry smartphone clip. It is a place with a name, a street, a number, and a line painted on the asphalt. The video now has a documented anchor, a gravity hill that the country itself has listed as a notable location. From a signed landmark, the next place feels like a hidden secret. In Australia, there is a road with no ticket booth, no museum, and no ghost story on a board. Just asphalt where water and balls do the wrong thing, and the only map you need is a local tip. Now, the last place on the list moves the mystery to a road that feels almost private. No sign with a ghost legend, no ticket booth, no museum. Just asphalt, trees, and a quiet stretch of tarmac, where water, balls, and cars all seem to forget what down means. Straws. Lane sits in Woodend, Victoria, roughly 77 kilometers northwest of Melbourne. You will not find a grand entrance. Visitors find it by rumor, by grainy online videos, by local directions passed between people who want to see something impossible with their own eyes. The road itself is unremarkable. 2 lanes, a gentle curve, the kind of asphalt you might drive past without a second thought. But stop the car, shift into neutral, and the vehicle begins to roll. Not downhill. It appears to climb. The engine is off. The brake is released, and the car moves toward what looks like higher ground. The test is so simple it feels like a trick. But the trick, if it is one, works just as well with a bottle of water. Stand on the road, pour a small stream onto the asphalt, and watch. The water does not flow toward the obvious low point. It runs the other way, spreading upward along the slope that your eyes insist is real. A ball placed on the same patch of road rolls in the same wrong direction. No motors, no magnets, no hidden machinery. Just gravity behaving as though the landscape has quietly reversed itself. Australia does not have just one of these places. Australian Geographic has documented at least 6 gravity hills across the country, each one a small, stubborn anomaly where the normal rules of slope and motion seem to break. That number is worth holding on to. 6 locations, scattered across a single continent, all producing the same impossible effect. And when you add the ones in India, California, Armenia, Florida, when you step back and look at the full map, the repetition itself becomes the evidence. Different latitudes, different terrains, different roads, different trees, different skies. And yet, the same failure. The same moment when a driver lets go of the brake and feels the world tilt the wrong way. That is the most unsettling part of the pattern. Not that one hill can fool the eye, not that a tilted room can confuse the body, but that the human sense of down is so easily stolen by the shape of the land. The planet pulls with the same force everywhere, roughly 9.8 meters per second squared. But the way we read that pull depends entirely on what the horizon tells us. And when the horizon lies, gravity feels broken, even though nothing has changed except the view. With Straws Lane, the promised 5 places are complete. A mountain road in Ladakh, a wooden shack in California, a high pass in Armenia, a historic street in Florida, and now a quiet Australian lane where a bottle of water becomes the final witness. Each one pushed the same weakness a little further. Each one showed that the feeling of certainty, the deep, physical conviction that you know where down is, can be manufactured by a few degrees of hidden slope and a landscape that refuses to give you a straight line. But the list, as strange as it is, only covers the surface. The roads are visual traps. The real question waiting behind them is bigger. Because while these 5 places make drivers doubt their eyes, satellites orbiting the planet have measured something else entirely. Gravity itself is not smooth. It is not a flat, uniform blanket. It is a lumpy, uneven field, shaped by mountains, oceans, and the dense hidden mass of the Earth below. And that means the word down was never as simple as the classroom arrow promised. The roads showed us how easily we misread gravity. The satellites are about to show us that gravity was never perfectly still to begin with. Now, put the road aside. Replace it with a picture of Earth taken not by a camera, but by twin satellites measuring the planet's invisible weight. In 2002, NASA and the German Aerospace Center launched a pair of identical spacecraft called GRACE, the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment. The two satellites trailed each other in the same orbit, separated by about 220 kilometers. As the leading satellite passed over a region with slightly stronger gravity, it would speed up, just enough to widen the gap. When the trailing satellite later reached the same spot, it too would accelerate, and the distance between them would shrink again. By tracking these tiny changes in separation, down to the width of a human hair, GRACE built a map of Earth's gravity field in constant motion. The result is not a flat classroom arrow pointing down. It is a field shaped by mountains, by deep ocean trenches, by the density of rock miles beneath the surface, and even by the slow movement of water and ice. In some places, the pull is a little stronger, in others, a little weaker. The difference is too small to feel on your skin, but large enough that satellites can see it from orbit. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, through its geodesy work, confirms what the image shows. Gravity does not pull the same everywhere. It varies irregularly from point to point, influenced by terrain, by the mass of rock below, and by the planet's slowly shifting interior. The ground you stand on is not a uniform plate. Every hill, every valley, every hidden fault line changes the pull beneath your feet. The 5 roads on our list showed us how easily the human sense of vertical can be fooled by a hidden slope and a missing horizon. A car in neutral, a bottle of water, a ball on asphalt. All of them appeared to move the wrong way. And yet, the satellites reveal something larger. Even the planet's real gravity is not perfectly smooth. It was never a simple arrow. It is a living map of mass under your feet, drawn by instruments that measure what the body cannot feel. The classroom arrow called gravity becomes a map. The roads show how we misread gravity. The satellites show gravity was never perfectly smooth to begin with. The viewer does not lose the mystery grows. The question shifts from why does this road seem to defy gravity to how much of the world do we trust only because the horizon tells us to? The planet's pull is real, but our reading of it is fragile, shaped by landscape, by sight, by the hidden slope that turns a downhill into an uphill in the mind. This bigger truth does not kill the mystery. It makes the 5 places part of a larger story about how humans ride the planet. The car still sits on the road near Leh, engine silent, wheels still. The driver shifts into neutral. The mountain appears to pull the vehicle toward the higher ground. At Santa Cruz, inside a circle no wider than a city block, a ball rolls the wrong way, and 2 people swap positions and seem to change height. On the road below Mount Aragats, water poured onto asphalt crawls toward the slope, and the driver feels the car accelerate without power. In Florida, the Spook Hill sign tells a ghost story, but the real ghost is the missing horizon that makes a short stretch of road into a repeatable ritual. And on a quiet Australian lane, a bottle of water and a rolling ball give the same answer. Down is not where the eyes say it is. 5 places, 5 roads or rooms, 1 repeated problem. A few meters of hidden slope, a blocked horizon, a tilted visual frame. These are not large forces. They are small enough to miss, but strong enough to overpower a lifetime of trusting the word down. The simple explanation works. A gentle downhill looks like a climb when the landscape removes every normal reference. But the explanation does not erase the shock of watching it happen. It does not stop the body from feeling the motion before the mind accepts the slope. The body feels certainty before it proves anything. These places expose that weakness in the most physical way possible. At Ladakh, the driver's foot is off the pedal, but the car moves. At Santa Cruz, the inner ear says one thing, but the eyes in the tilted room say another, and the brain chooses the wrong winner. At Aragats, water becomes the witness. Liquid that any child knows flows downhill, except on this road it appears to do the opposite. At Spook Hill, the sign is official, the register is real, and the road is ordinary. The experience is stubborn. And in Australia, the same trick appears without a ticket booth or a museum, just asphalt and a quiet landscape that makes the world look wrong. 1 strange hill can be explained away. 2 might be a coincidence, but 5, spread across different continents, with different vehicles, different liquids, different stories, begin to point at something larger. They are not isolated curiosities. They are a chain of ways the human sense of vertical can fail. The planet pulls with a force that feels absolute, but the landscape teaches the eyes how to read the pull. And what the eyes report can be completely wrong. From one road to the whole planet, the story widens without losing its shape. Satellites like Grace measured the Earth's gravity field from orbit, mapping the invisible differences in mass and terrain that make the pull slightly stronger in some places and slightly weaker in others. The classroom arrow called gravity becomes a living map of the planet's interior. Those variations are real, measured, and mapped. They do not explain why a car rolls the wrong way on a mountain road. That is a visual trap. But they show that gravity is not a flat, simple, textbook arrow. It is a field shaped by mountains, oceans, and buried rock. The roads show how we misread gravity. The satellites show gravity was never perfectly smooth. Gravity did not disappear. Certainty did. The most disturbing thing is not that gravity seems to fail. It is that the human sense of reality can be bent by a hill, a horizon, and a few degrees of hidden slope. A stopped car, a ball on asphalt, water climbing a road, a sign with a legend, and a satellite reading the planet's invisible weight. All of them point to one uncomfortable truth. The ground we walk on is not a neutral stage. It is an active teacher, and sometimes it teaches the wrong lesson. If a few meters of hidden slope can bend reality this hard, how much of the world do we trust only because the horizon tells us to?